Here we are at the 12th podcast of the T-minus 365 day series, which means that we have crossed day and episode number 84. What an incredible journey it has been thus far of deep conscious living of each and every day, which I don't think gets done enough. We go through our days mindlessly, by we, I mean me, and it's these days that make up the weeks of our lives. It's the weeks that make up the months of our lives. It's the months that make up the years, and the years that make up the decades that make up the centuries or the lifetime. And so not paying attention to the littlest of moments is a sign that we're not getting the fullest of life. I always wondered, what do people mean when they say live life to the fullest? You know, like, okay, how? Great quote, great positive mantra, but how do you do that? And I realized day by day, it's living consciously. We may not have the means to do our grandest ambitions right then and there, but we have the ability to be very conscious of the fact that we are alive, of the vast amounts of areas of our lives that we are extremely unaware of to even be grateful for. Sure, we have the obvious things. We are breathing, we're hopefully in good health, we have food, we have shelter, we have friends, we have the remaining family members that are still alive, but those are just surface level gratitudes. What about the ones that go really deep? I'm talking about deep as the bottom of the ocean floor. Have we ever gone that deep? I mean, to sit and write 1,000 things that we're grateful for, which is actually a pretty good way to go that deep, because in the first 100 you'll kind of utilize what most people would say, and then the next few hundred, that's where your creativity will begin to look at other areas. But then I would think the last 400 to 300 would be extremely difficult to reach into the crevice of our lives to say, oh wow, this thing that I was overlooking. And so now that I'm talking about this, I realize how wonderful that would be. And I'm actually, I need to make a side note to myself. Dear Sal, make a list of 1,000 things that you're grateful for and see where that takes you. See what it opens you up to. I mean, when they say count your blessings or mention what you're grateful for or write down what you're grateful for, typically it's 3, 5, 10, 20, max 100 things. What happens when you go that deep? I want to find out. I want to know what is the bottom 100, the ones that I have not thought of. So I'm looking forward to doing that challenge. That is a cool challenge, actually. Yeah, I wonder if I can get any sort of momentum of inspiring one other person at least to do such a crazy feat. Speaking of momentum, that is exactly what I wanted to discuss today, because it's the taste of momentum that I'm getting to experience, and that is lighting up my imagination. And I say that because it has taken now up to 84 episodes to reach this point at which I can be able to see the slightest degree of improvements, whether it be physical, whether it be intellectual, whether it be mental, whether it be focus, whether it be operations, leadership, all of these areas that I'm beginning to see the slightest glimmer of advancement, of being in a better skill set than I was prior to starting this, and above all, the consciousness with which I'm living my day. I constantly am asking, where did the day go? Where did the time go? And that is a good thing to ask each and every day, as opposed to at the end of your life when you're 84 years old. It's interesting that I just picked 84 and I realized that we're at episode 84. The mind is a very interesting thing. Where the brain is. That's a whole nother subject. Is there a mind or is there just a brain? Most people don't understand the difference, but I've wondered about that very deeply. So yeah, it's better to ask that within the day of where did my time go, and become quite conscious of that now, as opposed to near the end or actually today, as I came back from the gym, getting out of the car from the Uber after what has been a very intense workout. I felt a pain in my neck because of the way that I was putting my shoes on. It was I don't know why my neck was in a twisty way, but in that moment I realized how fragile again that life could be, that I could have at that, and I take things to an extreme. So I thought, okay, I'm having this neck pain. This neck pain could cause some paralysis, and the life that I have imagined for myself could immediately be altered. And that's the level of gratitude that I hope to always have. Is here I'm thinking, oh, I'm so hungry after this workout. I need to take a shower. I need to do this and that, and completely lapsing at the current moment. And here, life could have completely derailed all of that. So it is something that it's hard to appreciate life when you're dead. So it is something that I'm trying to be conscious of now. Even when I take showers, which I always take cold showers, even during the winter, I love it because it lights up my nervous system with the sensation that I won't get when I pass away. So back to momentum. I'm seeing the progression of what it's doing to me mentally, the consciousness of time, the awareness of where my life is going, the significance. Like I'm every time I get a call from my parents back in the U.S., there is now a seed of trepidation picking up that call and hearing how the initial intonation of her voice, my mom, or my dad, is it something catastrophic? Has someone had an accident? Has someone passed away? So I pick it up with mindfulness of this could be a very, very bad call. And I'm not saying that is a good mentality, but it is, I find it to be one that allows me to be very aware of life, as opposed to picking up for granted, thinking that everything's fine and dandy. I, for one, enjoy fathoming the worst case scenarios and just finding relief in that it's not that, So like the neck thing. So momentum is definitely beginning to pick up in my life, and this is I think why people come to India, the higher levels of self-awareness, and I definitely can see that the person that has come to India and the person that will leave India, they may both be named Sal, but they are not the same person. And for that, I'm extremely grateful for this project. I'm very curious about where it's going to take me. One thing I cannot do, I cannot give up. I cannot stop this. There may be people that come into this project that may leave this project, but as I told management in the company that I'm working here with, they're completely aware of my commitment to this project. I said, I'm not stopping this project for anyone. This is a journey that I feel like I must take, because what greater, and not that they've asked me to stop, but they're kind of asking, where is it going? And to that, there's possibilities of where it could go, but truthfully, I don't know where it's going. It could be into the unknowns, or it could be into the just me having 365 days of video journaling of my life, my transformation, which I think it's at the end point of that transformation that all of this will become relevant. Just as it's only until you achieve success that people want to know how you went through the process. So I don't think it's something that, and you have to have that vision, that I would think delusion even of it's going to make sense in the future, not right now. And that's where I am. So it's by knowing that end goal and then reverse engineering to today to say, well, if I want to have a six-pack abs and have the best physique of my life up to that point, then I need to do this today. If I want to know how to play the guitar, if I want to learn a new language, if I want to learn how to cook, if I want to learn how to dance or yoga or any other skills that comes useful or of interest or of passion, then I need to do this today. So and what is that version of me like? The one that can do all those things that I could not do in the beginning. So I'm I'm very, very much drawn to this idea, and I hope that by me pushing myself, by me achieving greater financial success than I've ever had, by me pushing my physicality to greater heights, my skill set, my learning abilities, my global reach, my impact, and all of these meaningful aspects of my life. For example, I got off the phone with my uncle today, and the land that I have in my motherland of Bangladesh, we're just waiting for finances for me to begin the development of a medical center. So it's those kind of projects that I want to at least begin within these 365 days, and have that big grandiose endeavor be started. Something that I am urgently rushing towards. So I want there to be such a stark difference between who that person is at the end of 365 days, and who that person is that began. Whether it's the physical side, such as me having now this scruff, and so many other aspects of it, or the mental peace, the mental calm, the mental agility, the mental stoicism, which is also something that I really, really, really want to study, as well as a myriad of other things that are emotional, that may be spiritual, and be a whole collected different individual that I am not today. But and also, like, I'm not afraid that I'm nowhere near those versions of myself. It's that I understand the power of exponential growth. And so one of the biggest things that will contribute to exponential growth is the financial side. As soon as I have more of a financial grip on my life, then that's where the proper allocation of funds will exponentially grow. So I think the last 100, let's just say now being that we are still in the first half, I think the second half or even the last 100 days will be so drastic in its exponential growth that that's where the captivation, that's where the imagination of, wow, this guy is really trying to change his life and really trying to be conscious of the reality that you must engage in this sort of intensity through which to change your life, because it's not minor commitments. It's not half-assing it. It's not well, I kind of wanna, or even having a strong will but not a accountability. My biggest accountability is if I am only slightly different than at the end of 365 days than I was at day one, then it kind of shows, or it kind of creates a bit of hopelessness that I wasn't able to change myself, that my ingrained behaviors will dictate the rest of my life, that I think I am able to until I actually have tried and realized, oh my goodness, I cannot. That is a frightening, suffocating feeling. It's like the jail of the mind, thinking that you're free, but you're actually not. So I definitely want to reverse engineer from who I want to be back to who I must be today. And speaking of who I must be today, there are small habits that really point out that I'm not going to appreciate or maximize my life if I don't change, and that is the trait of being late for things. And I look at that as such a symbolic representation of, if I'm late for a meeting, an appointment, a date, a session with myself, or if I have a mental idea of in 30 minutes I'm going to do this, at X o'clock I'm going to do this, and I am late, even if it's just with myself, then what that tells me is that I have a distortion of view of time. And if I don't correct that, and if I'm not able to find the confidence that when I say that I will be doing this in 30 minutes, that I reverse engineer to do what I need to do pre 30 minutes and arrive at what I should be doing in exactly that time, then how will that differ from me thinking at the end of my life I want to be here, or at this stage of my life I want to be here, similar to X o'clock, and then being late, being, for example, I wanted to have six-pack abs when I was 25. Now I'm 29 and a half. 4.5 years went by without fulfilling this. And unless I take drastic action, another 4.5 years, another 9 years, 10, 15 years could pass by, or it could never happen. Oh my gosh, the thought of that. Like at the end of my life, if I not only have not maintained, but also not ever achieved that, which by the way, I cannot imagine once I actually achieve it, that I would ever do anything to not maintain it, because it's like a poor man who is looking for his final break, his solution, and being very cautious to keep his wealth. And so I'm extremely mindful of that, of what I'm trying to achieve, and it's really scary that yes, I'm putting the mental time frame of 365 days of doing it in 1 year, and if I'm successful, which would only be determined at that point, and I think it'd be an overall feeling more than anything else, but it can also be objectively measured. I'd love to be able to do a backflip. I'd love to be able to have incredible flexibility, incredible strength, speak a new language, be able to cook the most popular dishes of India or other cultures, and have actual revenue streams that I'm extremely proud of, that not only sustain my exotic traveling lifestyle, but also allow me to do a lot of philanthropic work and do projects like building a medical center in my motherland. But more so, being conscious of where I want to be, that version of myself. If I do achieve it, then, and if I do live, because although this is a story, it may also be the case that I don't live until the end of 365 days. In that case, I'm so grateful that I started this project, and what that suggests is that I should have started it earlier. And I hope that is a point of reflection for anyone else that's considering changing their lives, that the time to start was a year ago, and you should be urgently working on that, because there is a seduction to time that makes you think that there is more of it, that we are immortal beings, or that we have so many more decades ahead of us. I'll do it, next year, next decade, at some point, and that is too much of a mirage that we falsely are dazzled by, without realizing, oh my gosh, like that is not a reality, but rather only today exists, and what I do today is the only thing that will impact the rest of my future. So tomorrow is a mirage. And so if I'm able to actually achieve what I want to by the end of 365 days, then, and if I live, then I will have even greater confidence, even greater momentum going into the next year of my life. Not the character's life. The character will actually die. But into the director's life. Oh, cool. Oh man, I just got a message on Facebook that says that one of my followers sees gains in my physique. So extremely grateful about that. Wow. Okay, that's the slightest degree of results is so rewarding and so addicting that I want to see so much more. And speaking of results, if I am able to manifest those results by the end of this year and am granted another year of life, then what could I do in that second year? Because I'll continue the learning, I'll continue the skill development, I'll continue the appreciation, the consciousness of life, and that is oh my gosh, I just realized, if I write down 10 things that I'm grateful for the next 100 days, only then will I achieve 1,000. And I have to make sure that it's not the same things that I put the day or any days prior. So it is a a feat that requires tremendous amount of deep thinking to draw out things that we've never thought of to even be grateful for. So with that, let's dive into the 7 episodes from the last podcast to this podcast, starting with episode number 78, which is called Goodbye. And it is my one of the greatest challenges that I face is coming to realize, and I've come to realize this over and over, that I will lose everyone that I love, from life partners to parents to what actually hurts me the most to think about is my beloved younger brothers. Thought of burying them is so mind-numbing. And as I say that, I was imagining that, and the feelings from that imagination was resonating back to the me right now, and even that was just so paralyzing that my brother would be 6 feet under the dirt. Wow. I actually, it was Sammy's birthday recently, and I made a video to him expressing my grandest desires for our brotherhood, which is for me to get financially abundant and then travel with my 2 younger brothers, and go see the world, go experience things, from skydiving to scuba diving to restaurants under the ocean to just the most wonderful of adventures, stargazing, seeing the aurora borealis, all these things, and whatever may be on their bucket list of activities. So at least in that future imagination, if I'm standing over their grave, or they may stand over my grave, that I can say or leave with or part with that I have done the grandest thing that I know to do for my brothers, and we've lived an amazing life of life full of brotherhood and building straight deep profound bonds. And so day 79, called Dancer, is an interesting one because it started from this song. I forget what the song is called, but are we human? Are we human? Or are we, what I thought he was saying was dancer. So I thought the question was, are we human or are we denser? I was like, oh, that's a very profound question, because it's like, are we more than humans? And then when I actually looked at the lyrics, it said, oh, are we human or are we dancers? I was like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But then when I pondered on it more, so I came to conclude that was also a very profound question, because dancer is someone that chooses who they are. Humans are born into who they are, and being a dancer gives you immediate purpose, immediate justification for all of your pain, sufferings, and efforts. Whereas being just human, it's a feeling of being lost, as I'm very intimately going through right now. Feeling of where should I, who should I become, or what is the purpose of this life? What is the purpose of my suffering and pains? And so I was concluding with that during this era of self-actualization, I think that a lot more people will begin to wonder, okay, I'm human, the most dominant species on this planet, top of the food chain, most conscious being known in the universe, which due to our limitation in our technology, that's not saying much. But with this self-actualization, I think more and more people will be wondering about their passions, whether it be dancing or art or content creation or connections or philanthropic work or just generosities or whatever it may be. By the way, I just realized I listed all positive stuff. People can have passions that are not positive. I just realized that fighting could be a passion. But nevertheless, people will begin to ask themselves or go within more than external once greater and greater amounts of individuals come to realize that there is something more to just being human or just being here. And I think that new wave of consciousness will require an answer to that to be fulfilled. And with that, let's go to day 80, wind, which I was actually quite shocked by the title of this. For some reason, I just chose wind. And I was like, okay, what exactly am I going to write about wind? And I wrote something that I really, really like. I really have come to see it as poetic. First and foremost, every breath of air that we take in is said to have at least some atoms that were in the lungs of every human beings that have ever existed, which I understand is more of a probability or statistical analysis, something that can never be approved, verified, but it just shows how wind connects us as well as how much it carries between us, the sounds that it carries, the way that we're never apart, because as I'm sitting here, the wind that is between me and my being is connected all the way from here in Bangalore over the ocean to my beloved family back in the US. And it's through this medium that we share this common space. I'm sure that space is far, but I just found it quite poetic that it carries so much, that it does so much for us, and the symbolism of it not being visible, that it being something that we just take for granted, is also something to reflect on, something that makes me appreciate it even more or be mindful of it. And if we could be mindful of something as simple as wind, as much of the background as anything else, that anything can be a part of the background. Just like a fish in water is the last to notice like what water is, we are kind of the last to consider wind or air something that is like, oh well, it's always there, like what's so special about it? So that's something that I find quite poetic, but I hope that the wind carries feelings of warmth and sentiments amongst lovers, amongst siblings, amongst family, and connects us all in a way that we cannot be. And I also express some of my pains in being so far from my family. Day 81, pray, which is something that I have foregone in for most of my life. There's been certain parts that I've looked into praying, or I've needed to pray, and in those instances I can't say that it has worked or it has done anything to make me feel better. And so it is an area of my life that I still have a huge gap in. I can imagine that prayer, even if it's into the abyss, can be quite therapeutic for oneself. I due to my logical, sensible, or not sensible, just logical and quite analytical mind or brain, I'm not able to justify that, and so but at some points of weakness I have. When my father went to the hospital, being rushed in the middle of the night through ambulances, and it was ambulances. It was actually one that took him to one hospital. They realized they didn't have the equipment because they did diagnose that he's going through a heart attack, and another ambulance took him to another hospital that did. And then sitting there in the waiting room in a state of what is going to happen and praying, that was difficult. But I hope to find something like that again. Day 82, hell. That's something that I realize it does not have to be torturous in the sense of a fire, in the sense of tremendous amounts of physical agony. It can be mental or emotional agony. It can be something as light as there's no creativity or there's no spontaneity. What would a life like that be? It might be quite dry and boring and feel torturous. Day 83, sex. That is something that I wanted to cover, how much it is the driver of man, the driver of woman, the driver of humanity in the any grand endeavor that is done unconsciously, subconsciously, for such a reward or such a biologically integrated mechanism. And so with that, day number 84 is attention, which I find to be one of the grandest or greatest forms of value, greatest forms of currency that can be given, granted, or gifted. And I realize that I have not done a good job of doing that for my beloved family, and I'm craving to do more of that, is give them an abundance of attention and shower them with my undivided, focused attention, which is as grand as money, if not even grander, because our attention is something that is actually bought, but it's something that we have a choice of giving or not. And in the most intimate of ways, you can be physically there, but not gift someone your attention, which I actually know the pains of as well on several dates. But I'm grateful for all of these different aspects that have brought in more awareness, brought in more consciousness into my life. And I want to leave you with, when it comes to are we human or are we dancer, what do you think you are? Beyond human, what are you here to do? For me, I believe it's to reflect on being a part of the consciousness of a mostly unconscious universe. And it's like I was created to just appreciate the rest of my being, which is the consciousness that I come from, and the consciousness, or the universe that I come from, the universe that I will be returning back to. With that, I will catch you on day 85 of the T-365 day series.